welcome to today's session. Today is our workshop 2 on degree requirements and first-year opportunities. Let me take a moment to just introduce myself. My name is Meredith, and I am an academic advisor at the Woodsworth College Registrar. And today I'm joined with a host of different people. We have, um, we have, sorry, my friends. We have Anna, Blake, Joanne, and Natasha here from the registrar's office. And then we have Sami, who is an upper year student, a fourth year upper year student specializing in mathematics and its application specialist, probability and statistics with a minor in philosophy. And we're going to have Quynh join us as well. So this is a really great session, one that's I'm so happy that you all joined, mostly because we're going to hear from our upper year students and just hear about how they chose their programs, what programs they are in, because this is kind of where we start making those decisions, or at least exploring them. So this is our second workshop. Our first one happened in May. It was all just kind of like a little welcome. We got to know different services, different departments, and how we all really just want you to succeed. And I think the biggest takeaway that I hope everyone got from that is just that you can reach out to us. You can ask from pretty much any department. We're here, all of our departments at the University of Toronto. We want to help you succeed. So if you have any questions or if you have any curiosity, you just want answers, we want to be able to assist you with that. So yeah, we have different workshops. You didn't attend that, that's fine. We actually have it recorded, so there's ways, and I'll share that in a moment, but we're going to have workshops throughout. Our next workshop is actually in a few weeks. It's going to be on course selection. So right now we're going to start with the big picture goals. Like, what do we need to do to graduate from the Faculty of Arts and Science? And then from that, we'll understand that we need to pick programs. And in order to get into some programs, or in order to complete those programs, we need to pick specific courses. So that's kind of the link from this workshop to the next workshop. So we have 3 offerings of that workshop. Again, I'll go over that in a second and whatnot, but attending these workshops is super great throughout the summer, mostly because you get to know U of T a little bit more. You get to hear different people, like you hear from our academic advisors, you hear from your students, different departments. In our 4th workshop, we're going to hear from Yvonne, who works with finances and whatnot. So and also most importantly, we always end this with a Q&A session. And that's great because we all have an idea of what we need to learn and whatnot to get prepped for September, which is a really exciting time, but sometimes it's nice to hear what other people are asking too. So we get to learn from each other. Talking about preparing for September, I also want to do a quick shout out. You've all been loaded into the Welcome to Woodsworth Quercus page. And so this is a really good resource. So what it is, it's a course that we've set up that has all the information that you could need. Some really great things is our workshop schedule right here. So you can see all the different times you can register, but you can also watch recordings from here. There's a summer to-do list, and this is really helpful because there's so many things to do. And what's nice is just breaking it down into chunks. So we have it organized into what to think about for June, what you can do in July, August, and September. We have information about orientation. So that's really great. That'll be actually in module 2. And so that's put on by our Office of the Dean of Students. Information's not there because we're still in the planning process and whatnot, but you can check out there. And then some really great orientation events across. So we have transfer student orientation, Black student orientation, queer orientation, Indigenous student orientation, and then orientation for students with family responsibilities, and a mature students welcome as well. So there's different activities going on across all of the university. So this is a really great place where you can go and check things out. And the last thing I'll highlight, I think one really helpful is module 5 and 6. It's all about enrolling in courses, and there's a course enrollment checklist. So hopefully this gets you a little excited about going into Welcome to Woodsworth. You don't have to do it all at once. We actually have a little bit of a schedule planned out for you if you would like to follow that that structure. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into our workshops. Oh, the other thing I'll quickly note, I think it is just helpful for any students requiring accessibility services. I think this one's just a really important date to highlight. I can't find it right now, but there is a registration deadline for signing up with accessibility services. And it's good to just mark that. So it is July 14th at 5 p.m. So if you're someone who has used accessibility services in the past, then just mark this deadline. And that's super helpful. All right, so yes, let's jump right into our workshop. So how today's going to work? We're going to start with the degree requirements. We're going to jump right into understanding exactly what we need to do to graduate. And then we're going to be able to hear from Sami and Quynh about their programs. And then we're going to talk about some specific opportunities for first years. And there's some really wonderful opportunities here. So, and it's a great time to think about that because a lot of them involve some course enrollment. So course enrollment happens in July. So right now in June, again, like I said, it's all about that exploration piece. Okay, so there's 3 types of degrees within the Faculty of Arts and Science. There's Honors Bachelor of Arts, Honors Bachelor of Science, and the Bachelor of Commerce. And there's some small differences between a few of them, but the simplified, this is it simplified. Basically, there's a certain number of total credits you need to complete. There's a certain number of credits at specific levels. There's programs that you need to complete. There's a minimum cumulative GPA, so cumulative grade point average, and a breadth requirement. So again, if any of that is unclear, don't worry because by the end of this workshop, we'll have that all covered. So requirement 1, the number of credits. So within all of those degrees, you need to complete 20 credits. So, and within that 20 credits, at least 10 of them need to be offered by the Faculty of Arts and Science. And so the reason why I flag that, if there's any students who are upper year transfer students, maybe you've taken credits at other universities, just know that 10 of your degree credits need to be from the Faculty of Arts and Science. And that's the same with any students who might take a course at UTM or Scarborough right now. 10 of them have to be at the St. George campus. Now, when we talk about credits, they can be half credits or year-long credits. So the H courses are our half credits. So there's 0.5, and they typically run from September to December or from January until April. The year-long, they're 1 full credit. So you could take the same course for the whole year from September until April. The thing I want to note with that is that, again, there is I think there's a computer science course, for instance, that is a Y course that actually takes place in the fall or within a term or the fall session or winter session. That is a full credit. So it takes the place of 2 courses. Okay, so that's good to know. When we talk about course load, so the recommended full-time course load is 5 credits. And the reason we think about it this way is that there's that 20 credits that you need to complete by the time you graduate. And so when we talk about 20 credits and we think about our bachelor's, it typically happens, but like when we think about it, it's usually within 4 years. So if we have 20 credits, we divide it within the 4 years, that's about 5 credits per year. So, but that is the recommended course load. Some might want a little bit more. With that, whatever the case, we do recommend that in your first year, you keep it at 5 credits. Do not go, it's completely up to you, but we recommend staying within 5 credits because there's going to be a transition period. And knowing that now is super important, and planning with that in mind is super helpful. Now, the other thing to be helpful is knowing that full-time and part-time status. So full-time status is 3 credits or more, and part-time status is 2.5 credits or more. And like I said, you have the flexibility to choose your course load. So it could be maybe you're more comfortable with doing 4 credits in the fall, winter, and maybe putting 1 in the summer. Well, that's still 4 years. Maybe you do 2 credits in fall winter because maybe you have other things going on, maybe different, maybe um, competing priorities or whatnot. So that's a little bit easier. And 1 credit in the summer. That just means it takes a little bit longer, 7 years. And so that flexibility is open to you. Again, I'll just say we recommend taking no more than 5 credits in the fall winter within your first year. However, there are things to keep in mind when choosing your course load. So funding sources. So that could be provincial loans or US student loans, whatever the case, maybe that requires a full-time status. So keeping that in mind, immigration, your graduation timeline, maybe you have a specific timeline that you want to graduate. Or maybe there's residence responsibilities outside of school. Maybe you have your health to take care of, or maybe parents, dependents, children, whatever the case, a job, maybe you work part-time, maybe you work full-time, whatever the case, keep that in mind with your course load because time is finite and we can only stretch it so much. So being mindful of what we can manage really helps us in the long term. And of course, residents may also have its other, like a requirement for being full-time as well. Okay, so now we're going to jump into that piece about certain credits need to be at specific levels. And what I mean by that is that if you think about it, we can't take all 20 credits at the 100 level. They can't all be first year. So the university has designed it in a certain way so that students need to take 200 level, 300, 400 level. So honors Bachelor of Arts, honors Bachelor of Science, you need a minimum of those 20 credits at the 200 level or higher. And at least 6 of those need to be at the 300 level or 400 level. Bachelor of Commerce is very similar, but different. It has that same minimum of 13 credits at the 200 level or higher. And within that 13, 6 need to be at the 300 and 400 level, which again is the same. But they actually do require that their students for Bachelor of Commerce has 1 credit at the 400 level, while Honors Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, Honors Bachelor of Science, you have some flexibility there. It's mostly determined by the programs you choose. So when we're talking about course levels, there's 100, 200, 300, or 400. And you might think about that as first year, second, third, or fourth, but just know that it's a little flexible. A lot of times there you might find in your third or fourth year, you might take 200 level courses in 300 or some 300 level courses in your fourth year. So it more just talks about the expectations that are put on you, the amount of work, the amount of reading. So you can basically, we advise again, a lot of students you should take primarily 100 level courses in your first year, mostly because they're designed for you. They're helpful for your programs and whatnot. Yeah, I think that is the key thing right there. The other thing we like to be mindful of is, again, if we look at it, it says 13 credits at 200 or higher. So what that means is that we have 20 credits in total. If we go 20 minus 13, that means it leaves us with 7 full credits that can be used at 100 level. So that's good to keep in mind. I think, again, within your first year, you have 5 credits. You can feel pretty comfortable taking all of them. I mean, you can feel comfortable taking all of them at the 100 level unless you're an upper year student, transfer student. And you could even take some 100 level courses in your second year. It's just be mindful that avoid taking more than 700. I think the other thing is if you're someone maybe with some IB or AP credits, they can maybe their transfer credits as well that may go into that 100 level. We'll talk about that later on. So now let's move on to the third requirement, completing program requirements. And this is a really exciting one because this is kind of what you're going to be studying. So right built into the degree requirements, there is a requirement that Honors Bachelor of Arts or Honors Bachelor of Science students, you need to pick a program to graduate. And that can be 1 specialist, or it can be 2 majors, or it can be 1 major and 2 minors. Bachelor of Commerce, you would need to select a specialist. That's your requirement. So it's a specialist in management, finance, and economics or accounting. So when we talk about programs, Again, that minimum combination is one specialist, two majors, or a major and two minors. And there's a little asterisk that says any overlapping programs need to have at least 12 distinct credits. The reason behind that is just to make sure your programs aren't too similar, that there's too many overlapping programs. So it's not something you need to be too worried about right now. It's just something to know that is there. Now, you might be wondering, what is the difference between all these? And the big difference is the number of credits associated with it. So specialists have 10 to 14 credits. And so if we think about those 20 credits, that's a large portion of your degree. You're going to be dedicated towards one specific program area. Well, a major is always 6 to 8 credits. So if you're doing two majors, you're getting a lot of knowledge about two different areas. Minors are always 4 credits. So that is something where you might be interested in something, but you're going to get maybe just an introduction, or you're going to take enough courses to get to know an area, but majors and specialists is where the really in-depth knowledge comes from. So if you're thinking about electives and whatnot, this is kind of a nice visualization. So if you're on the first one, specialists, you'll notice, again, the blue, majority of your programs are going to be dedicated toward that one area. And so there is some room for electives. There's 2 majors as well. So again, it's kind of equally split between the majors and your electives. Well, a major and 2 minors, it's cool because you get a cross-disciplinary program. So what you'll have a major, 2 minors here, and some elective space as well. Just know there's no best. A lot of students come into my office and they're like, so which one's the best? I don't think there is. It really just depends on what you're wanting to get out of your degree. Are you someone who's just really excited about one specific area? Or are you someone that really likes to see how different areas may play along with each other? It can be really surprising. And the other thing I'll note, maybe you're someone who likes both science and arts. Just know there's ways around to have a major, 2 minors, maybe a major in science, 2 minors in arts, or maybe a major in there's ways around that. So if you want flexibility around it's completely within your time frame. You have freedom to do so, okay? Okay, so the next one is that minimum cumulative grade point average. I'm not going to spend too much on this only because I think it's something that a lot of students get stressed about. They really think about their GPA and they're worried about it. And you know, it is something to be in mind, mostly because it may lead to other opportunities and whatnot. And also, it is important to keep in mind because you do need 1.85 CGPA to graduate. And I think that's important to keep in mind, mostly because I remember something that was said, it's just like, once you're in your programs, you just need to pass. Well, that's not 100% true. 1.85 is actually higher than a 50%. So you actually do need to get a specific grade in each of your courses and maintain it for a GPA to graduate. So 1.85 is that minimum GPA required to graduate with honors Bachelor of Science, honors Bachelor of Arts, or Bachelor of Commerce. 1.5, which is about a 60%, is the minimum GPA to be in good standing, okay? So that's another thing to keep in mind. And I think that's good to keep in mind mostly because we talk about students and their GPA, and it can be a little overwhelming because a lot of students do experience a drop in their grades. Just know you're coming from high school where you know exactly, or some other institution where you might be really familiar with the learning environment. You know your teachers, you've been there for 4 years. You're at the top of how to navigate that. You're going into a new learning environment. You're learning in a different way. So just know if you experience a drop in grades, that's completely normal. And there's room to grow. You have 4 years. That GPA has room to change. But if you notice that your grades are kind of around the 1.5, you start getting midterm grades or term grades, that's when maybe it's a nice signal to be like, okay, I think it's time to talk to an academic advisor because there is room to make changes and we have ideas to make those changes. And sometimes it's just nice to talk. Just know There's no weakness, like it's not a form of weakness to reach out. It's actually in your best interest. It's very solution oriented to be like, okay, I'm going to do something about this. Making an appointment with an academic advisor is a good idea. So um, sometimes asking for help can feel a little bit weird, but never hesitate. The strongest students are the ones that know when to reach out and do so. All right. And then a breadth requirement. This one's interesting because um, so a lot of students have natural interests and they tend to take courses within those interests, and that makes sense. That's your programs, right? But the university wants to kind of push you outside of your comfort zone. And so the breadth requirement is that way to go ahead and do so. So the way I like to talk about it is that each one of our courses is falls within these breadth categories. So creative and cultural representation, that category, I like to think about it as the fine arts, maybe languages, English, okay, drama. Uh, Thought, belief, and behavior, that one I think is philosophy. There's another one, but yeah, philosophy I think is a typical one that I see in that one. Society and its institutions, that's political science, economics, a lot of um, sociology programs as well. Living things in their environments, that's like biology, chemistry, and the physical and mathematical environments, that's physics and math, okay? So you might find yourself graduate just within your programs completing some of these categories, and that's great. Um, the breadth requirement, what it states is that there's two ways to complete it. So you can do it in either one of these two ways. You can complete at least one credit in 4 of the 5 categories. Maybe there's one that you just don't want to, you're not interested. That's okay. You can just take one credit in 4 out of those 5 and just leave the other one. But if you're open to taking a little course in each one of them, then you can take one credit in 3 out of the 5 and then a half credit in the remaining 2. This is something that's really helpful to keep in mind if you have elected like space out, because you'll plan for your programs first. And then if you have space, you might want to consider about your breadth requirements. If you have more questions about this, just know workshop 3, we're going to dive in deep about this. So I encourage you all to try to attend that one. And we'll continue that conversation. So that wraps up our conversation about degree requirements. And I want to stop sharing my screen and I want to open this up to Quynh and Sami. So Quynh and Sami, if you could, yeah, thank you, share your screen. That's wonderful. All right, thank you so much. I'm so glad that both of you could be here, Quynh. Quynh is a 4th-year student. Her programs are criminology and socio-legal studies and sociologies. And then Sami, again, like I've mentioned before, is 4th-year mathematical and its application specialist, probability and statistics, and a minor in philosophy. So whoever wants to go first, the question I'd like to share is just, how did you choose your programs? Is it something that you knew right away? Did it change over time? What was that process like? So is there anyone who would like to jump in?
Okay, I can go first.
Thanks, Quynh. Right
Yeah,
on.
no problem. Yeah, so I felt like for me, it was a little bit different for every program. I also, since I talked to Meredith last, I did add an urban studies minor as well. So yeah, just like Sammy now with my 2 majors and a minor. But I think for me, it was really different for every program. And definitely like throughout my experience at U of T, I learned a lot about like what I was interested in. And I felt like I really followed that in my program selection. So for criminology, I definitely went into my first year at U of T thinking, I might be interested in the program. I was really interested in law, and I know obviously like socio-legal studies, that was something I was really, really interested in. Um, and so I saw that, in the criminology course, there were a lot of, or sorry, the criminology program, there were a lot of courses on like criminal law. And so I was really, really interested in that and pursuing that in my first year. But for sociology, I actually decided to apply to the program sort of near the end of my first year. I initially kind of wanted to double major in criminology and psychology, but then I took a psychology course in my first year and I was like, I don't really like this as much as my sociology course. So I decided sort of near the end of my first year that I really wanted to pursue sociology more because I was really interested in sort of the subject matter. And then finally, for urban studies, I actually added that program or that minor on, again, like I said, really recently after the end of my third year. And I decided to kind of pursue that just because I had spoken, to my academic advisor. I spoke to Meredith, and we kind of discussed about, some options for adding a minor. Since a lot of my courses were really similar in criminology and sociology. And, she let me know that I had space to add another minor if I was really interested. And I really enjoyed my urban sociology course that I took in my second year. So I decided to pursue urban studies sort of more full time in a minor setting. So yeah, that's how I chose my programs. It was really just about like my interests, what I was interested in, and it's really good to know too. Like you can add programs, like an additional minor if you're interested in anything. Like as you go throughout university, it's not so set as to what you just decide at the end of your first year. Yeah.
Thanks, Quynh. Yeah, just echoing exactly what Quynh said. So your requirement for completing your degree is one specialist, two majors, or a major and two minors. And what's interesting, both Quinn and Sami added an extra minor. That minor is not needed for your degree. In fact, if you don't complete that extra program, that's okay. I mean, yeah, that's completely okay. But it sounds like that minor came out of like I think you're an interesting your experience is very interesting because it's both like you had that set idea, but it was very fluid and you allowed some exploration with that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like definitely a big thing, like about going into U of T, like
Yeah.
keeping an open mind is really, really important.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you're going to experience within your first year. It's a big jump from high school to university. And so keeping an open mind while you can have, set goals or set interests that you have going into your first year, it's really important to keep an open mind and, kind of find what interests you as you move throughout the first year.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Sammy, I'm gonna turn it towards you. Like, what was your experience with choosing programs?
So like for me, coming out of high school, I knew I wanted to do like something in math because I did the IB program in high school. So I did take like chemistry, physics, and math at the higher level. And out of all of them, I enjoyed math the most. So like coming into my first year at U of T, I knew I wanted to do something among the lines of like math and philosophy or like math and econ. Like I was planning to do a double major. But then I took all the required courses my first year and then I found out like all the math and its applications specialists in something, they're basically enhanced double majors. So I was like, oh, this seems interesting. And then, so like first course of action was doing the math and its applications in economics. But then like Quinn with the psychology, sociology thing, I had a thing with economics and stats because I took both in my first year. And then I realized I actually like stats more than I like economics. So instead of applying to the math and econ program, I applied to the math and stats program. And then I was interested in philosophy coming in, and then I realized like the major like is asking a lot because like there's some courses which I required for the major and like I had an interest but like not so much so of an interest. So that is what resulted in me adding the philosophy minor. So like Quinnan also said, just keep an open mind because if as long as you have like a brief general idea of what you want to do at university, like you'll find your way at U of T after like your first or second term, yeah. So
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you. And it's true when you add like with a specialist, you do have the freedom to take a major or a minor with it. I think the tricky part is that it's so if a specialist is I think 10 to 14 credits, that's out of 20. It makes it a little squishy, like a little tight to fit on all the other programs. So yeah, the minor is really nice for that. And I'm just curious, do you find philosophy and math have like, do they connect in any way? Or like, I don't know, I'm just
oh,
curious.
I've been asked this many times because people are like, that is an interesting combination. So the thing is, U of T does offer courses in like symbolic logic and like metaphysics and but how do I explain this? Basically, yeah, the symbolic logic and then there's like arguments. So there's this course at U of T that many computer science and math students take. It's called PHL 245, so if anyone's interested in symbolic logic. But basically that t course through symbols like teaches you how to break down arguments. And then so when you end up reading like Hobbes's Leviathan or like you're reading Descartes or things like that, you can break that down into like logical statements and then say like if because in my fourth year I'm planning to take this course called Math and Law, and then even that say you're trying to find fallacies in people's arguments because there's many statements people make that from a literary standpoint would make sense, but like when you break it down logically it does not make sense. So I think that's where the connection between like math and philosophy comes in.
Really well explained. Yeah, totally. I can see that. The law, that's fantastic. Quynh, I also, urban studies. Do you see any, like, is it purely interest or have you been surprised by any connections or like, what do
Yeah,
you?
I think urban studies is really nice. It's sort of similar to criminology in that it's very interdisciplinary. So it takes a lot of information from, sociology. It takes information from even like the architecture program. You'll learn a little bit about that. It takes a lot from environmental studies, of course, even like politics, because you're learning about sort of um, policies and stuff that govern urban space within cities like Toronto or cities across the world like Mumbai. We learned about a ton of cities in the United States, like development plans and stuff. So I definitely say urban studies is pretty connected to what I was learning in sociology for sure. Obviously because I had taken the urban sociology class prior to going into my urban studies classes, and so I think it really was helpful that they were all kind of connected, and I really like sort of the interdisciplinary nature of like criminology and urban studies because I think it's really important to get sort of like a mix of different disciplines and understand a lot about different subject areas. And I think that's really good as well, like in first year, for especially for criminology. There aren't like set classes you have to take. There's no like specific requirements. Like, in sciences, sometimes you have to take certain biology classes or certain math classes. But with criminology, they only said, you can take 2 credits of anything from this long list of courses that would be like a prerequisite for the program. And I thought that was really helpful because it let me see um, like a lot of different classes at U of T. Like I took psychology, I took politics, I took sociology. Like I got to take a lot of things to really understand and hone in on like what my specific interests were. So definitely a suggestion for, people in social sciences or, in humanities as well. Like if you're interested in applying for like a program with more sort of open and less restrictive prerequisites, then I would definitely say like take as much as you can because it really helps you learn about the things that you're really interested in, what classes you do well in, stuff like that.
And with that, like there might be some courses you might be surprised that in high school you really liked. And then you didn't, and I'm surprised that you don't maybe like in a university setting. And that's normal and that's okay. Just, I think both Quinn and Sammy have really shown that it can be fluid. You can change your programs, you can change it becomes a little tricky in your third and fourth year if you do some big changes, because remember you have to do it within 20 credits. You might have to take more, but again, I think what's great is Quinn did mention that she talked to the academic advisor. There are ways around we can be like, if we have those conversations, it's possible. So yeah, thank you both. So we're going to jump back into our presentation, but Quinn and Sammy are going to stick around. We're going to have our Q&A in about 10 minutes and whatnot. So if you have any questions directed to them, we'll try to include them with our questions. So thank you. And thank you so much. So let me share my screen again. Let's see. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to highlight, we talked about Quynh mentioned requirements in first years that you need to take for criminology, for instance. And Sami most likely had the exact same thing. Where that lies is the academic calendar. So I just want to introduce this as one of your resources that you can refer to. It has the degree requirements right in here. So these are the 20 credits minimum. We went through all this: one specialist, two major, one major, two minors, and the breadth requirement. They're all here. And then if you Bachelor of Commerce requirements, they're here as well. But if you go over to program areas, this is where the programs are. We have, I think there might be like up to like 700 programs in the University of Toronto. And the majority of them are actually here within the Faculty of Arts and Science. And what that means is that you have a really unique experience to explore, okay? So feel free to do that. Go through this. You might be surprised, again, by what you're interested in. You might be surprised by, you have maybe some goal after university, you want to take a program, but you might be surprised by how another program may connect with it or how it may be different, but just make you think about it in a different way. There's different perspectives. Each one of them is a little bit different. Actually, each one is set up very similarly. So let's go to criminology just because we talked about that one. Or Quynh mentioned it. So criminology and socio-legal studies. So each one of them starts with an introduction. There's contact information, and here are the programs. So there's actually no minor in criminology and socio-legal studies. It's specialist or majors. And when you open it, it has enrollment requirements. And so this is this is the requirements here. And then for the major, this is the 2 credits for eco, history, philosophy, politics, psychology, and sociology. So you'll notice that not all these programs are open for enrollment. What that means, there's limited and open. We're not going to go too much into this because we'll talk about it in our next one. But yeah, there might be certain courses you might need to take in order to get into the programs that you want. Some open programs are pretty flexible. All you need is to complete 4 credits and you're automatically admitted. But yeah, taking a look at the enrollment requirements in your research is super helpful, making note of these, and that'll help guide your course selection. All right, so let's go into some opportunities. So these opportunities I'm going to talk about, these are specifically for first-year students. And I think when I like to think about it, I like acknowledging that the University of Toronto is large. And these unique opportunities are really great for meeting people, for creating community. There's other ways to do that. Like you can join organizations, you can join clubs, even simply going to orientation events. I think there's Pancake Tuesdays with Wixa. Like there's so many different ways to create community here on campus. But these are ways to do it with the courses you take. So first, I'll start with first-year learning communities. Basically, you apply for this. There's small groups of first-year students where you're basically taking the same courses. So you're in these same core courses for your program. You're taking with the same people. It's great because you can study together. And then on top of that, you meet with a group activity every other week facilitated by upper year students. So it's a great way to just hear like those group activities. They can be about choosing programs, about, I think there's one on resume writing. Yeah, it's just like a regular check-in with the same people. And so relationships just naturally happen. And not all of the group activities are academic focused. Sometimes you just go and I think they went pumpkin carving. So if you're interested you do need to apply to this by July 2nd, and the QR code on the screen will link to it. And if you don't get to it right now, I'm going to flip to the next one. There'll be a recording, and yeah, just reach out to us and we can provide those links. Okay. So another one is the first year foundation seminar. So this I like to describe, maybe you're someone, so one thing you'll notice, a lot of courses might be quite large. Like there might be hundreds of course students in one course, okay? If you're someone who knows that you do really well in smaller Seminar classes, maybe you like discussion. The seminar classes are maxed at 25 students or less. And what's really great about these is that they're led by really fantastic faculty. It's really driven by interest. There's so many unique courses that you can take. If these might emulate a lot of like courses you might take in your third or fourth year if you're in arts, and you're going to be doing a lot of discussions based on reading. So it's a great way to know relationships with other students, make relationships with other students because you're going to have that within um, that group of 25, but you're going to have really close contact with that faculty member as well. So if this is something, you just enroll into these courses. And so the QR code will give you and tell you about what these foundation seminars are. There's a whole list of foundation seminars in the academic calendar. Just know that you're going to they fill up fast. So there's a specific window that will be dedicated towards your year. And you'll just need to find out when that is. It'll be announced to you, and we can talk about that as well. But you'll just want to make sure that you enroll. If this is a priority, you'll want to make sure you enroll into it as soon as possible. And lastly, there's first year foundation one. So this one, I like to think about it more as like maybe there's a theme, like there's a bunch of courses, maybe there's one or maybe there's more courses that are theme based, and there's co-curricular events and experiential learning opportunities with that. So what I mean by that is maybe there's a guest lecture or maybe a field trip. And so there's just a lot of ways to dive into and have out of the class experiences. And what's great is you're taking courses with people who have that interest as well. So each one of our colleges offers one, in addition, the Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy. The thing with that is that if you're interested, Monk 1, Trinity 1, and Vic 1 all have an application. So I think a common misconception is a lot of Woodsworth students think, okay, I'm a Woodsworth student. I can't take Monk 1, Trinity 1. Well, that's not true. You can still apply. I think some applications may have already started, but take a look. Maybe you're able to still just reach out and see to those colleges. If you read more, follow the QR code, you can read through each one of the Foundation One options. I know the Woodsworth one is excellent, but there's other like St. Mike's. There's all kinds. And so any outside of the three listed, Monk 1, Trinity 1, Vic 1, those ones you enroll during course enrollment. So those are great opportunities as well. So I think the key takeaway is that all of these are excellent. They're all kind of there to build community. If you want to enroll, course enrollment is a really good time to think about whether or not you want to include this into your timetable. If you want to take advantage of that, researching them now is a really good thing to do. The big thing is foundation seminars and one's programs, you just won't be like, ideally, I would like to take all, if I was in your case, I'd want to do all of them, right? Just the priority really here is to choose courses for programs. The same way we were thinking about criminology, you need to find out what you need to take in order to get into the programs you want. And then if you have space, why not? Why not take advantage of some of these? So yeah, like I said, now is a really great time to start looking at that. All right, so we talked about the academic calendar. That's one really great resource. The other resource that I like to highlight is the program toolkit. So the QR code is right there as well. So anyone watching the recording, I'll include it in the YouTube description box and whatnot. But yeah, what is a program? There's a whole explanation about what programs are. And then there's program showcase. And that's really great too, because they're usually linked to a video from upper year students. And you can just dive in and find out why you might want to choose or opportunities outside of the classroom. So it's a really great resource. Now let's see what else. The other thing I want to highlight, some students in first year, they're already thinking about these opportunities, and that's great. If you know you want to go abroad, there are international opportunities. There's academic exchange, summer abroad. There's international course modules. Maybe you're someone who already knows you want to do research. That's great. There's research opportunities, research excursion programs, and independent study. I'm not going to go into these right now, mostly because it's just good to know that these opportunities exist. Maybe mark them down, you know? I'd focus more on programs right now and first year opportunities, but this is something you may want to start thinking about maybe at the end of your first term, maybe in December during that holiday break. Then you can start thinking about it. You can always reach out to an academic advisor. Just know that these opportunities are there for second, third, and fourth year. And another opportunity I like to talk about is just arts and science internship program. This is the arts and science version of our co-op. You have the opportunity to apply to this after you complete 4 credits. So if you're full time, that's usually after first year in the summer after. And there's specific programs. So this is a really great opportunity to get like tangible skills, you know. You get experience, you get something on your resume, and you get paid industry rates. So there's really great opportunities there. It really depends on the program you choose. Not all of the programs are associated with ASIP, but again, that can be something on your radar, okay? Something to keep in mind. All right, so I'm going to give everyone some homework before the next workshop. I really hope you all join me in workshop 3. I think you probably can already guess what those experiences are. We heard it from Sami, we heard it from Quynh. Explore, take the time to look through the first year opportunities through the academic. Explore the programs in the academic calendar. Next, check, okay? Check, is your program open or limited? If you're not sure what that is, remember, open programs, any student who've completed 4 credits can take that program. Limited programs are the ones where there's program enrollment requirements listed, and you'll need to include those courses in your timetable. Next is checking program enrollment requirements. Check those first year completion requirements as well. Open programs, there's going to be a list of first year completion requirements listed underneath the program enrollment requirements. Let's see if that's listed somewhere. I can give an example. But yeah, there's checking to see if there's any first year completion requirements. That's also super helpful. And then we're not there yet. We're not going to enroll, but just know that that all links to enrolling. Enrollment happens in July. So yeah, I'm going to echo what Sami and Quynh, keep your options open. You might be surprised by what you're interested in. So our next workshop is Wednesday, June 5th, 9:30 to 11. But the QR code, if you can't make it, workshop 3 happens 3 different times, okay? So there's opportunities to join that. And then questions, if you have any. Now it's a really good time to ask those questions. You can email wdwregistrar@utoronto.ca. I'm more than happy to answer those questions, but just know that continue coming to these. You know, a lot of questions get answered just in these workshops and in the Q&A, and you're going to have opportunities to join us. And then I included a little survey link. If you have time, people who might be watching this recording, I love to just hear what your thoughts are on this workshop. If you like it, if you don't, if there's things we can change, take a moment, fill out the feedback form. But with that said, we breezed through that, all right? So I'm going to end this recording here because I want to move on to that Q&A session. But anyone who's watching us on the recording, thank you so much for doing that. And anyone who's staying with us, just stay with us for a moment and I'll switch to, we'll switch to that Q&A portion. All right.